Tubesday and Curious Audio with your host, Chad Corley. Get ready to feel abnormal.
Hello, we're starting Tubesday right now. Tubesday. Thanks again to the former president for doing the intro on our show. Couldn't do it without him, really. Barry, we know you're over there in England or whatever, but still, thanks. Thanks a lot, man. Thanks. Here we are. It's Tubesday, just like it says on the screen there. I'm here to talk about building amps or doing DIY stuff or music, recording music, performing music, anything you want. If you have questions, throw them in the chat. I'll say that lots of times over the hour. Last week's Tubesday, if you missed it, and many people did, it was great. We did some amp building, we made some jokes. You know, I spent pretty much the whole hour trying not to be this guy. Oops, especially that. Watch that again. Yes. Yeah, I was trying not to be him. So, not successfully, I don't think, but that's okay. In the meantime, opening the show, I do a little monologue, right? Because, hey, you know, I have no audience, so why not do a monologue? Basically, it's about, what you missed last week, which was a lot of fun. The great thing was I used some music, just sort of a playlist that I had, and it was wonderful, and it sounded great, but at the end of it, YouTube was like, well, you can't rebroadcast that. It's got all those music, all the copyright music in it. So that's wonderful. I'm going to try to reverse engineer that situation. I do have a recording of it, but I'm going to bootleg it and sell it just on the corner of the street because I think I'll get the best money out of it that way, probably. So anyway, here we are. It's Tubesday. Yes, again. Tuesday. Just like what we were saying. It's exciting. I do have a couple ways, speaking of exciting, new news in that I have a much wonderful view of the inside of the amp. Very clear, auto-focusing happening as we speak. You know, it's wonderful. So, that's great, so I can really show off what's happening in there whenever. And because I got this brand new and yet, only slightly expensive camera, it allows me to have 3 cameras now, which is wonderful. So with 3 cameras, I can do something like show this really expanded view down the bench, and also with the amp side by side. So we're seeing the amp I'm working on. There's another amp down here. I'm actually going to have this amp just sitting open up here on the bench so I can see. I'm going to try to get this amp up to the point where this amp is tonight, hopefully. We'll see. I've got a couple of new things I'm trying out, so that's kind of exciting as well, but we'll see how far we can get. But I'm just moving the amp here, and I probably shouldn't be moving it so you can see it as well. But that's a good place for me to work on it also. Especially if this amp's not here, because I tend to lean in that direction. But I'll tell you what else would I be talking about if I wasn't talking about this? These are Audio Odyssey 1 amps. I make them because I wanted an amp you could record with, and that's what they ended up being. They started as a very basic amp that you could record with that didn't have a whole lot of functionality, and then ended up being a very expanded amp with a lot of functions that are really great for recording. So it's like the one amp, if you have a big studio, it's like an amp you can have in your control room, you know, and if you don't have a studio at all, it's just one you can use in your bedroom that record everything you want right there. All right, so again, any questions or comments, put them in the chat. I'll see if I can respond. I'm going to start here open with this over the top view, and we'll see how it goes. How about that? So the thing I'll do is pull this amp over here and hope I'm not missing an important phone call, which it turns out I'm not. So that's wonderful. And look, this is a chrome knobs on it. It's wonderful. Let me switch back over to the other for that so you can really see these chrome knobs. I love them. Chrome knobs. Ooh, see how shiny. Those are available through Amplified Parts. They're not sponsored of mine or anything like that. I do like them. They have a lot of good parts. That's where I buy all my parts, except for the ones I can't get there. But most of the parts that I need, I buy from Amplified Parts. So there's one here, there's an amp here, and I think what I'm going to be able to do is kind of shift them back and forth so you can see one or see the other. I can see them both right now, but if I'm talking about one, I'll move from one camera to the other as we move forward here. So this is down. This here, so just so we actually know where we are, right? So where we're trying to head is where this amp is, right? So this amp has filter caps in. It has the entire power supply section wired in already, and it's got the makings of the rest of the circuit underlying wires going to pins on all of the tubes here, basically. That these are signal right here. That's gonna be a signal one as well. I'm hoping I didn't get premature on that thing, but that's all right. I'm looking in this one and going, hey, I soldered that in, but I think I might need it, but maybe not. We'll see here. So I'm basically going to take what this looked like and try to make this other amp look like it. Now this other amp is a customer amp, so it's fun. And there's a new thing I'm doing here is that I'm changing the capacitors. Or I'm changing how the capacitors are put in there. I've been sort of using silicon to stick them in there up to this point, and I think that's the last time I want to do it on that last amp I just did. And the new ones I'm going to use a terminal strip here. I'll have to move some wires out of the way to kind of really make it easy to see. These are wires I'm going to be working with imminently, so that's cool. So this terminal strip right here, I used to just glue the capacitors. Here they are, big guys, right? So glue them in. Actually, end to end like this, right? And then glue them in there, and then the ground wire came out here, and these were on the far end, so the hot end of this 47 was coming out this way, but it was still too far to even reach the pin it needed to. And this one, these guys, I had to do a whole lot of extra stuff just to make it work. And then I figured out, hey, I can use this thing right here. Just slide that in there and show you what that looks like. So, not quite that far down, but so there, right? That's in there. There's 2 terminals here. I actually took the other one out because it was just in the way. This is the ground for the entire amp right here. So running these guys straight to the main ground. That one, and then also this one as well, right? So what we end up having is these two sitting right in here. That one probably won't be as far as that. I don't think it's going to have to be as far back as that. But basically, this one's sitting right about here. And then the pin that this lead needs to go to from this filter cap is right there below it. And that's just beautiful. So I'm going to wire in pin 1 before I get to this. But I'm going to do a couple other wires right now. So I could heat up the old soldering iron and get to work. Let me see here. I might need to turn that down just a little bit. The first thing I'm going to work on, I guess, is getting these primary wires out here. I've already done the center tap, or not the primary, but the secondary. So the center tap for the secondary is right here. It's grounded. The other wires for the secondary, this is coming out of the power transformer, right? So it will have about 250 volts each swing of your 50 or 60 hertz sine wave, and that's about a 500 volt AC signal, right? That's so what. But when you get down to it, at the end of the day, you rectify it, and you get about 300 volts B plus. So that's your supply to your tubes down the line to your plates, or a cathode, as it is in the, or not the cathode, but the grid of the 6BQ5. It's low current, but it's high voltage, right? So still enough to hurt you real bad. And maybe I should stop right now and talk about getting hurt by tube amps. It's happened to me a couple times when I've been testing them, and that's really the main thing, is the kind of danger that tube amps represents is mainly when they're turned on and you have them open like this. Now if there's something defective and it's causing a short, or it's causing something else to be carrying voltage that shouldn't, then yeah, that's a big problem. But mainly when you're building the amp, you don't have them on. It's not really as big a deal. That's not where the danger is. It's when you're actually testing the amp. So you do have to be careful when it's on. You also have to be careful when it's not on. If it's a real amp but it's already got filter caps, for instance, that could have been charged. Like if it's an amp that's a completed amp, it's been turned on, filter caps have been charged, they can retain that charge. You could accidentally touch one of those leads, a positive lead on a filter cap, and get zapped with a couple hundred volts. It's a very surprising thing to encounter. So you don't want that happening to you. You have to discharge your filter caps if you're looking inside an amp. So do that as well. It's pretty fun little thing. If you could have fun with it, because it makes sparks when you discharge them in fun ways. You can just stick a screwdriver in there and ground it. Just run the screwdriver against the chassis and watch it spark. Stand back though, because it's a fun thing, and make sure you're safely grounded. Wear rubber-soled shoes, that sort of thing. All right, so let me get this going. I'm gonna go right here with these two first. One goes to pin 1 and the other goes to pin 7. This is on the rectifier tube. This is how the rectifying happens. So the rectifier tube basically takes an AC signal that looks like a sine wave. I wish I could magically make that appear on the screen, but I can't. And it flips one of the halves of the sine wave, the negative or positive half, for B plus or B minus supply, right? And makes it so it just does this, right? And that's a constant DC direct current, right? Instead of alternating current, that's what it turns into. So your rectifier turns your alternating current into direct current. And then you have something you can use with your tubes to do all the fun things that the tubes do in the amplifier, right? So I'm gonna go ahead. I don't know how fancy. I can't remember how fancy I used to get, but I used to get real fancy with all the wires and make them be, go special places. And I mean, I kind of still do, but it's very efficient is the idea. So usually the shortest path is the best. There's certain wires that you want to treat specially and not have them go all over the place. It's mainly the filament wires if you're running AC heaters, right? So if you're running AC heaters, you need the twisted pair, and you want them very close to your grounded chassis all the way down, and that kind of helps them not generate extra noise in your circuit. So these amps have been for me, I'm really happy at how quiet these amps are when I turn them on and get them out there in the world. So it's one of the goals of what we're trying to do when we build these amps. So let's see here. That's about as long as I want it to go. So let me see. I got some cutters in here somewhere. Maybe they're not. Oh, yeah. I'm blind. See, I could switch to the other camera view, and then you could see down the table and tell me, oh yeah, your cuts were way up there, Chad. They're right there. You see them? Okay, good. So I got some leftover wire. I saved my leftover wire. That's one of the best things about these transformers. No, I can't say one of the best. It's just one added bonus, because one of the best things about these transformers is they're like extremely reliable. Like I never have one, fail. I mean, I'm gonna knock on wood, of course. Let's knock on unfinished and unpainted wood, especially, right? Oh, this one is dead. It goes into recycling. Where's the new one? I have another pack of solder. We'll talk about solder real quick. Lead-free solder, if you're looking for it. This is good stuff. It's called Kester. Where's my camera for that? Oh, there we go. Is it? Oh, that's the bad camera. Let's put this camera instead. This is the fuzzy camera, the one up here. Hi, fuzzy camera. That's why I had to replace it, because it doesn't have any focus on it. So this has, hopefully, some focus. So you can see it's Kester. Lead-free. Where does it say that it's lead-free? That all that nice stuff right there. Everything's really small on there, so you'll just have to take my word for it. It's lead-free solder. It's good. This stuff's kind of thin, so I use it in tighter areas or where there's smaller space to work, right? But it's good stuff. I think I can buy it through a couple of different places online. You can find it. It's called Kester Lead Free. It's green. You can get it in big spools or in these little tubes. I just look for the deal. But it's pretty cool. So this one's cool. I'm gonna go ahead and make this guy happen here. Where are you going here? All right. So I keep talking about these things every time. After a while, I want to talk about them. Like, here's my, my wire strippers, and I like these better because they have the stripper at the end instead of in here. And I actually have a pair of those too. And these have the crimping tool right at the end, and sometimes that's better. You just get better pressure, right? And this one's kind of just an awkward place beneath, right there. So. Everything out there on the end is where I like it. I'm one of those kind of people, I'll tell you. So let's see here. I'm gonna strip this wire. How far down? How about there? Hopefully that's good. I never know how long to strip a wire. It's funny. I guess people have their own system of how they work. Depends on the situation, right? Like how much space you have to get that thing in there. Like when I'm trying to work tight with these wires, but you know, I don't want to screw things up. It doesn't really matter. Like it's, you know, it's not like somebody's gonna have to assign this wire to some other place, right? So if they're coming to take this wire out, that means they're taking the whole output or the power transformer out completely. So that is thing you don't have to worry about. You can usually cut these wires pretty short, and the only other one I would worry about if I was making this amp and thinking I would do something in the future was which one is that? Oh yeah, it's purple. You can hardly see. This purple wire gives 50 volts. Which is wonderful. Like 50 volts. What could I do with 50 volts in an amp separately, like or some device that I was making, some audio device that needed somewhere around 50 volts, maybe, like a mic pre that had 48 volt phantom power, right? Phantom power. Oh no, that sounds like a big old mess. Yeah, I know. I've looked at it several times, and it is kind of a mess. But you know, what can you do? Alright, so what are you doing as well? This guy I want to get out of the way completely, so get in behind somehow or the other. Ooh, look. Oh, I love that. Gosh. So, you know, when you're doing your amps, you got to route your wires and make them not be in weird places. So, let's see. Pin 173. All the others are good, so I'm just trying to make sure all this stuff's in before I get those capacitors in, making trouble for everyone. Those bastards. Capacitors, man, they screw everything up. It's the filter caps, right? You know, you say that because the filter caps, when you make an amp, those are probably the first things that are gonna go on your amp. You know, so it's worth investing in some good filter caps. I should probably stretch mine. What? No. How about that? I hope that was not, overzealous. It might have been. Well, we'll have fun with it. Let's see if I can stretch a little bit here. Alright, hopefully that's good. These are good strippers, by the way. Klein tools, highly recommend. Alright. Get in there or make me angry for cutting it too short. Oh, look at that. It's too short, it's perfect. See, that was the thing. I cut it perfect, but it's scary if you cut it perfect because it sure looks too short right when you put it in. And, it makes it a little bit tougher to work for. You can give yourself a little bit more slack than I do, but I'm trying to make everything really efficient and tight. These are like production amps. I'm putting them up against, the Marshalls and the Gibsons and Fenders of the world. Or whomever else out there, like the fancy amp makers, right? I see some builds on Instagram from time to time, and it's just like, wow, look at that beautiful, how precise they are. And, I post the pictures of the ones I build from time to time, and I think they look pretty good. But, I'm always trying to make them look better. And I'm not just look better, but and when I say look better, it's not like just more attractive for a picture, but everything really precise and as close to no waste going on here, not a whole bunch of rat's nest looking stuff. Obviously you're looking here and it sure does look like a rat's nest, but there's just early stages of amp building. These are long wires that come from the transformers, which are really useful because you can rebuild them. You can use these wires in your amp, so I never really have to buy wire because the transformers come with so much wire. Like, this is about, a foot of extra wire. And it definitely does go back in the amp, So, that's pretty cool. Also, transformers, not robots, they make the amp go. No, that's not really how the song goes, is it? But anyway, if anybody happened to think they were gonna get entertainment here, they were sadly mistaken. So I'm gonna switch back. However, I was trying to show down the bench to see how it goes. This is basically 2 amps. This amp's at a stage beyond this amp, so I'm basically just catching this amp up to where this one is. It just helps. I can look at the amp and go, there's the wire right there. I kind of know them mostly from memory, but then when you have one right in front of you, it just goes, okay, well, that makes sense. Quite easy. So filaments here are wired in on this guy. I just threw in the secondary going to the rectifier tube. So these are your 2 secondary wires going into the rectifier. Rectifier is going to then spit out your B plus, about 300 volts, and then that's going to go down the circuit to various places. So and get filter caps, which is just about where we were. So my old amp here, it's got filter caps. I don't know if it's probably easier if I lean. You can barely see these filter caps, these black filter caps. Those are like silicon in there. It's just like some caulk, basically, but it sticks really good. But I'm just tired of using that stuff. It's weird and smells weird. It smells like sweaty gym socks or something. It's terrible. So we're moving into a new world. There's a terminal strip here. If you look on the right of the screen, and that's where I'm going to start attaching my. That's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to slide this guy in here, and slide the other one right there. So these filter caps, they're going to, filter out filter out that 60 hertz that comes through the line when you plug in your amp right from the wall. They are also the things that die first on the amps after anywhere from who knows however many years, depends on the quality of the one. You hope they last 10 years, maybe 15 or 20, but filter caps will go first, and they have to be replaced. So you kind of want to make it not impossible for them to be replaced like a big pain. It's because somebody's down the line, hopefully will have this amp in 30 years, and these nice F&T, let's see, I probably should go to this guy, right, this amp right here, because it's going to focus. Yes, F&T capacitors. They're very good. I like them because they're efficient in terms of the size. Mallory's, of course, are very good ones. They get the big, but they're huge, right? So a Mallory capacitor might be this big in here, just a single one. I can't really work with that in these amps. It's just too much. These are also excellent capacitors, and I've been using them in all the amps so far. The amps are really quiet, and I'm biased, but I think they sound great, right? So anyway, let's see what next I have to do before I start getting real serious about thinking of our filter cap placement through, because this is the first time I'm doing it this way with these guys. The ground is right there. That's excellent. The hot leads coming out. This is 2 capacitors in one, by the way, so it's 2 33 microfarad capacitors for filtering down the line, especially once you need even more filtering as you get further down. So this will feed up the line in the preamp as well. We want that to have the best filtering, the most of all, basically, so none of this hum is getting to you. If you got an amp, when you turn it on, it's got a really bad hum, or really any piece of old electronics, its filter caps are dead. Okay, I don't know that now is the perfect time for this, because I have to run a couple of wires. I have to run one wire to here, I think, maybe there, and then the other wire all the way back behind up the line on this turret board here. So, but before I do that, a quick announcement for my favorite non-sponsor. This might be my last non-sponsored beverage in a while. It's Best Choice. Yes. It's so exciting. I mean, you can guess what this is supposed to be, right? But It's actually not so bad. Some of these are terrible, but this one's pretty good. Best choice. They make everything. They make everything from pop to Pop-Tarts to, you know, bad pizzas, I think. But it's probably going to help Lauer without dying. All right, should product placement more on this thing, right? I mean, there's so many products here, so. In the amp, like this nice thing, which I don't have a good shot of in either case here. I hope I can, let me lift it here and kind of show what that looks like. There, oh, no, there we go, focus. Yes, it's called a Schaffner. It's an input, it's an entry module. It's like for IEC connectors, so it has that kind of plug right there. If you can sort of see that, I don't want to get too handsy with this amp because it's a customer amp. Very nice looking one. I've been showing pictures on social media, so if you've been following up social media, you've seen this one. It's the green one. Let's see. Let me switch cameras to the overhead view so we can see into here. So here we have the turd board. And this is our ground line right here. So the whole ground for the amp, basically everything connects to here. It's kind of a fun star ground. Everything connects to here. That connects to the main ground point here. Coming in from the wall, your mains, it's the ground on that goes to another point on the chassis. So you've got 2 points on the chassis that are being ground. One's earth, right? So and this is the ground of the entire circuit. And so together that makes this steel chassis the whole ground, right? That's what you want, is your chassis basically being completely grounded. So no children come up and touch your chassis and get, electrocuted or anything like that. We don't want to electrocute the children now, do we? No, we don't have that happen. So to avoid these kind of things, we want to make sure our ground is super solid. I started using this 14 gauge solid copper bar in just about everything I make that has tubes in it, especially because it's just a nice way to do it. So I just attach it on one end on the very last turret and then run it all the way down into this board. I used to have another piece, like, I mean, it's kind of hard to see. I'll have to scoot that back so when I tip this I can show. There it is, right here. This piece, it connects to the screw and it's got a little point where I can solder in that wire. And I had another one that I was using there to connect the copper wire to, but the fun thing about this terminal strip is it's got a perfect little place to slide that copper bar right in, soldered in tight, and it looks really nice. And then it just makes the grounding situation so easy, because I was doing it before where I basically had to go every fourth turret and wrap, a wire all the way down to have places to run things to be grounded basically near where they were. But now I've just got this place where I can, latch onto from anywhere. Basically everything in the circuit is kind of between here and here, or the output section back here. And so I like this system a whole lot. It works really well. Like again, the amps are pretty quiet. So let's see, that's out the way. And then what else are we gonna do? I think I should probably run these guys. These are coming from the output transformer, and I should say more to the point, going to the output transformer. One goes to where the B plus supply is coming out, so you got a lot of voltage that the output transformer requires, and the other's coming from the where is it here? It's the 6BQ5, so it'll be the output of the 6BQ5. And that is basically the primary of your output transformer. That's the signal that's going into the output transformer, and then coming out. The secondary is all of the different things you could send to a speaker. Like it's either an 8 ohm output, or 4 ohm, or 16 or 32. I think this does those particular settings. Now I only use 8 ohm on this amp, all the speakers we get are 8 ohm speakers, but it's a flexible output transformer because it gives you more than that. I've always kind of cut these long enough. If I wanted to put a switch on, I could just put one right here to where you could select out the output ohmage, but not anytime soon. I kind of figured right now an 8 ohm speaker is pretty, right down the middle in terms of most people can accommodate that somehow. So, and the speakers we get, they're from Weber speakers. The Weber speakers are awesome. So don't know why you'd want to. It's like you can't upgrade from a Weber, I guess. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe you could. I'm probably getting a little bit gushy about them, but I do like them. They're great sounding speakers, and they work really well as replacements for like your old Fenders and stuff like that. If you have one of your old speakers below on a more classic or vintage amp. So all right. Anyways, the whole point was we are on the primary for the output transformer. So I've got to cut some wires. I'm kind of getting more to the point. I always kind of made these run a little higher, but I'm gonna even cut that back a little bit. And I'm trying to remember how I wanted to do it. I know I have to run a wire from here. I'm gonna go ahead and use every single turret on this turret board now. I've committed myself. So to do that, it means I'm running a wire from this third. It's because this third pin on this tube has this going into it. It's got a resistor going into it. It's got this capacitor going into it. And it's got, another wire going into it that's supposed to go to the next stage. The wire, where that wire goes. There's a wire and it goes somewhere. I can't remember right now. Let's see what that means. Oh no, that's what. It's not the next wire. To the next stage, that's what runs through the resistor. That's right. So it's a high power resistor. It's 2 watts and it runs from there to the grid of the 6BQ5, the output tube. But see, these turrets are just so much more room on these things, right? Like, they're wonderful. So I wonder, oh, wow, boy, did I just have a fun thought. How fun is that, though, really? Is it fun enough? Gosh. Just thinking about the mechanics of this. So here, I'll scoot this, and I'll move this forward, and so then we can see a little bit about what I'm talking about here. So here we are. This is pin 3 I'm talking about right here. So you got this wire coming in, you got this resistor coming in, you've got this capacitor going in there as well, and that little pin, or that turret on that tube socket, it gets pretty crowded over there, and that's kind of like a prime place when I'm testing the amps. I have to know what the voltage is on this point right here. That's right where the B plus originates. So it would be so much nicer if I could do that test on the turret, but then I have to kind of move everything over here. This resistor is actually too big, if you see the body of this resistor, to fit across here. So I can put it there, but it's going to be like this kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know. I'll do it, but I don't know if I love it. It's just my mantra has been for this to move things off of the tube sockets and onto the turrets as much as possible, just because I don't really like working over the tube sockets really at all. And the turrets make so much better testing points when you're actually working on the amp. You can just bring in a probe, touch right to that turret. It's a nice big solid place to put a probe on. Whereas when you're digging around the sockets, there's so many other, these pins right next to each other, or not the pins, but the actual turrets for the underneath here. They're pretty close. I've slipped a couple times and made a spark happen because I crossed a couple of wires there. So I mean, it's not impossible. It's so much nicer when you got a little bit more room. So I hear him. I'm talking myself into doing this is what I'm doing, but it's just I'm being grumpy because when I make circuit, it's not really a circuit change. It's just a build change, right? So the process of how I build this, I'm gonna put things in different places, and I have to be comfortable with that because I'm gonna start doing that every time. If it gets too fiddly or if it turns into some kind of pain in my ass, basically, then I don't want to do that. So let's see. Oh no, that's why it was looking weird. It was already soldered on. Okay. So therefore, if I was going to try this, so my thought then was, and this is a trick I've done before, is I've got this wire that needs to go to pin 3, but it also, ultimately, everything is turning here, so I can run the wire here. And, I mean, generally speaking, I like to run under the copper bar, but maybe this time I'll, forgo that whole situation because it'll be nice. It'll be nicer if I do run it up under. So fun time. So I'm going to run here, wrap it around that. Basically, I'm going to cut as much excess off as I can before I do this, so I'm not, being sloppy. But I'll kind of run it right down the middle of here. Wrap it. I'll use my these guys to basically strip a spot right there, and then pull it apart and wrap it and then continue. So rather than talking about it, let me just do it so you can kind of see what's happening here. That is to that point. Let me go ahead and make that cut right now. That's not even a cut. It's basically, I'm acting like this wire is getting stripped here. I'm acting like I'm stripping the wire, but I'm not. I'm just making that happen. And then I just basically extend the wire. I don't know if you see what I'm creating a gap there in the wire. This is a little trick with the turrets that's pretty fun. And once I get long enough, I can just wrap it around. And then it's almost there. But it has to do a complete circle around. Let's see if that's close. If it's down there at the bottom, no, it's not. But that's about half as much as it needs to be. So that's really work on it. You kind of have to keep yanking it down the line. But you don't want to hurt anything. You have to be careful about yanking the wire on the end into the transformer because you don't want to pull anything loose there. So do be careful. That's all I say. Let's see. Also, any questions or comments, throw them into the chat, and I shall see if I can answer. So I did that straight on top, and I think I'm fine with that. But on the other side, I'm going to go underneath because I can. Although I still need a little bit more of a stretch of this. Actually, going around the post, that makes it a lot easier because the post is now taking a lot of strain. So basically, I'm just trying to use that turret. This will be like the dream of dreams for efficient amp building in this regard. Like I'm using every single turret, and it's not any of it having to do with running a ground or anything like that, because the ground is a different part of the circuit there. So anyway, noticing what I did here, and never cut the wire. I just stripped a section of it and then stretched enough to wrap it around the turret. The turret has actually like 2 sections. I'll lean it back so you can kind of see. So I can use an upper section to connect any other extra wires or whatever. But basically, from here I can run just this wire over to there, and then that's the only thing I have to put on that. And then everything else that needs to be on there could be there instead. And it's a happy land. That's really all I can say. It's a happy land for all of us involved. Everyone in the world of tube amp building is celebrating that moment, is what I'm saying. So I'm all for it. After I'm, like 3/4 of the way through, something will happen and I'll just, there will be many, profanities screamed and such. No, I'm not like that at all. I'm very even keeled, and I don't say, things that are rude. Oh wait, unless you follow my Twitter account, then you understand. Sometimes words come out of my mouth. No, they're not out of my mouth. They're like things that I had put on Twitter. It's just the way I got involved, following politics when I was about maybe 16 or 17 or whatever. I would read the newspaper every day, and I don't know. That was just that was what some kids did back then, if you can believe it. We read the newspaper. Okay, I did. I was the only one. I was the nerd of America, who was 16 years old reading the newspaper. I mean, to be fair, I would start with like the sports section usually. I was, be a Sporto Jocko guy, right? Let's squeeze that down there a little bit further. So this right here is a little fiddly. I'm not sure I'm liking how that's going, but everything else will, work out great. I shouldn't be doing this part now, because what happens is all I really need to do is solder on that bit there. It's good to do your wire situating right after you've soldered a spot, because the heat transfers all the way down the wire, and then the wires become really malleable and kind of easy to set in a place. And then after they cool down, they tend to stay where they were when you left them. Do you have a good soldering iron? Because you should. I like a Weller. I'm sure there's lots of good other ones out there. I have a Weller. It gets hot so fast. Like I just turned it on, and now the light is blinking permanently. So that was, I don't know, it was like 30 or 45 seconds. It's wonderful. It's just the world I come from, where I had a really crappy soldering iron, and it took forever. Like, you'd turn it on, and you'd have to go and have a sandwich or something, because it was definitely not going to be working for you for a little while. 20, 25 minutes or so, right? Pretty annoying. So, here's the other kind of solder I use, by the way. Also lead-free. It's just a heavier, dutier. Yeah, you know what I mean. Dutier, right? So it's thicker. You can actually get this at your box store. It's benzomatic. It's also, like I said, it's lead-free. I like to do everything lead-free, because I don't want to be huffing that shit. It's pretty terrible. So here we are. I'm actually going to solder something. What a weird thing. Why? This is going to be fun. As soon as I get tinned up here, and if I can find the spot. I think I'm getting, I'm losing my eyeballs here. Oh, there we go. Oh, so nice. Come on. All right, so I guess it just means make sure your soldering iron still works, or if you need a new tip, which I probably do. I'm about to the point where I need a new tip, I'm just going to say. So the turrets are nice. They solder up real quick and easy. I might have a touch on the back here as well, just because it's around, but I'm trying to not, get too much of this. Like the jacket for this wire melted, but I want to make sure that so sweet. So there you go. That was beautiful. That actually was beautiful. So now, while those wires are all hot and you can sort of see that, maybe you can see how they're glistening even, but right now I can make this guy be exactly what I want it to be. Oops. Be what I want to be. Come on. You are mine. No, okay. That's not, I should give it its own existence, right? This is just dress, right? So, try to make things look nice, and it helps later if things are organized. I take a little bit longer on my builds just because I'm trying to be a little bit more careful. So I'm gonna let that cool off a little bit and let those wires think about being in those places. This is radical for me. I'm just gonna say right now, if you're watching this, you're witnessing history. This is definitely the first time I've done these wires this way. I think it's gonna be better all around this whole thing. I'm just trying to find a way to make building this amp as efficient as possible, but in that process also improve, things like signal flow, just the lead dress, everything to make things look and sound as good as they possibly can. Look circuit wise, just look, but when I turn it on, it better still be the same amp, right? Or I'm gonna be mad, or I'm not gonna be mad. Well, somebody will just have to wait, and I'll have to go and do the one the way I did the last one instead. But I think this one is gonna be great. And it might put me all the way, put me over the top, man. Because I think I can get one of those big rectifier, or one of those big resistor, that power resistor, to fit in that area. It's cooled down enough, I think. So what's the next thing I need to do? That guy's under there. I need to trim. So let's see how that's gonna fit. I really maybe should get these capacitors completely out of the way so they don't get unnecessarily bumped or harmed in any way. This is pretty good. It's funny, I didn't make a whole lot of progress this time, but at the same time I made an amazing progress, because this is something I've been thinking about doing for a while, and I just got to the point where I feel like, alright, the decision is made, you know what I mean? Like, let's do this thing. And now those tube sockets are going to look so clean. It's going to be beautiful. So good, yeah, enjoy my forearm there. And blocking the camera, that's great work. Entertaining and all that as well. Programming note, I won't be streaming next week because my daughter's spring break, and we're going to go on a family vacation to a very nice place for families to go on a family vacation. But that's all I can say about that. Otherwise, the week after that, I'll definitely be back streaming. I'm just going to keep doing this every Tubesday. Tubesday. I love it. It kind of forces me to do this extra work during the week. Keep building. That's what I really want to do, is just keep building. So, and I don't want to cut any extra wires that I don't mean to cut in here, so that's why I got these ones with the wires at the end, because you can't stick that inside a chassis and try to make that work. There's no way you're going to strip wires with that thing inside chassis. It's impossible. So really, it did. It changed my life when that happened. All right, when I got those wire strippers there. All right, so that means when I put this in, I'm just going to solder it right on and say I'm done, because holy moly, I'm committing to a radical new paradigm in amp making. I'm going to say right now, it's not really true. It's just a new thing for me. We'll see how it goes. But that's kind of the thing you got to keep doing. I guess if I was going to keep making this amp for 30 more years, I would expect, I'd keep figuring out little things to make a little bit better. That's really just the way you got to do it. I can't, it's frustrating, I guess, because I'm sure somebody would want just to go like, when is it done? And I'm like, it may never be done. I'm going to keep improving the circuit until I'm 52 now, so until I'm 53 and I kick it. Okay, I shouldn't say that, that's one of those things that people will go, well, you shouldn't put that out in the world. I'm just I'm joking, right? You know, like I said early in the show, I just spend the whole hour trying not to be this guy. But again, probably failing. Let's see. So that line's now there. So what we're going to have is we're going to have the power resistor run from there to there. Capacitor going there. And it's just a wonderful thing. Everybody's good. That wire's already there, so that's great. The more of these long, stupid wires I get out of the way, I'm happy to do so. So let's do that one too, even though that one goes to the 6PQ5. But I'm not getting ahead of myself or anything here. It's also pin 7 for this as well, so that's fun. So pin 3 there and pin 7 on the 6PQ5. And I guess, you know, I'm like gonna just go ahead and cut it relatively short. I don't want to be so short that it's right on top of those filament wires, so I'm gonna loop it over a little bit, I guess. Let's see, that's pin 6, so pin 7 right there. Pin 7 right there. But I'm gonna cut them shorter. I think. I mean, I don't know how much shorter. Maybe I'll do one of these deals. That makes me feel a little better. Let's see if I can. I used to be like, I'm gonna make that the sharpest corner on the wire you've ever seen. But it's not gonna happen. All right, so that's to about there. And then I gotta cut it a little extra longer for stuff. Any questions? No. All right. That's good. That means I've made everything abundantly clear, and I haven't been weird, or and all of my jokes have been funny. I mean, you know, you gotta have standards. Gotta have standards in every business, including making tube amps. Let's see. I don't know if I'm like leaving out like many technical details that might interest people, but ultimately, I'm still wiring in the output transformer. This is the primary side of the output transformer. It's 5,000 K, so the input impedance, right, for the output transformer is 5,000 K in this circuit. So there's something that, you know, I could say that's worth knowing. It's similar to like a Fender Champ, and this output transformer you could use on a Fender Champ. It's a much nicer output transformer than a Fender Champ, I should add. It's got a higher frequency range, all the way up to 40K, I believe. It's actually it's a single-ended sort of high-end. I could, you know, get two of these and make like sort of a stereo hi-fi amp if I wanted to, right? But I put it in here, and I did it that way because I knew I wanted to put synths through this amp, and I knew I wanted to put basses through the amp, and I wanted to have a very, you know, as wide a frequency range that could handle everything. And then from there, you've got a low-pass filter on the front that you can switch in or out. It's actually in automatically. You can switch it out to you know, work off some of the extra high-end frequencies if you want. But I kind of think the amp is not necessarily the best place to be having to do EQing. You know, you're going to do it before that, hopefully, in your guitar signal. If you're EQing on the amp. Well, maybe the amp just has a damn fine EQ on it and you just want to use it, and I get that, right? I wanted this one to be able to be as pure as possible, like, so take whatever signal you put into it and make that signal sound true, right? So there is a very simplistic tone circuit here, but it can be switched out, and when you switch it out, you actually even get more gain, because you get a little bit of a tone suck is what they call it, right? But basically takes a little bit of the gain out of your circuit when you have a tone circuit in it. So anyway, here we are. We're rolling up on 7 o'clock. I'm gonna keep working for a little while. I might take a break to hang out with John Boehner. One of these days, I'm going to put together a segment for the show, Ask John Boehner segment, and have people send in their questions for John Boehner. When I talk to John Boehner, mostly his opinion is well, we need more legal weed. So I can almost guarantee you that his answer is going to be, we need more legal weed. So, but I can always ask. Maybe he's got some opinions about other things these days. But